Hello, friends. Welcome back. Today's story is about me and my father-in-law. My name is Anjali. I am 23 years old, a young, attractive, married woman, standing at 165 centimeters, with fair skin and a well-proportioned figure. I have been married for 3 years now. We have an 18-month-old son who was born a little over 2 years after our wedding. When my baby was just 4 months old, my husband received an international transfer to Thailand. Because of the nature of his work, he couldn't take us along. He was only allowed to return to India for 1 month every 11 months. Since his travel was unavoidable and he didn't want us living alone in the city, he asked my father-in-law to move in with us. My father-in-law was 49 years old at the time. He used to live alone in his village after my mother-in-law passed away a year prior. Being a retired Army subedar, he was still remarkably energetic and physically fit. Working on the farm and living in the clean countryside kept him in incredible shape. So much so that despite his age, he easily passed for someone in his early 30s. In fact, back when my mother-in-law was alive, neighbors often mistook him for my husband's older brother. Since he was well-educated, he adapted to city life very quickly. For 7 months, he lived with us, helping around the house and taking great care of my son. Meanwhile, I was struggling with deep loneliness. My husband had been away for months, and the void in my life was becoming unbearable. But I had no one I could confide in. Then, 5 months into his stay, something unexpected happened that completely changed the dynamic between us. It started one afternoon while I was cleaning the house. I walked into my father-in-law's room and noticed he wasn't there. Looking around, I saw a light on in the bathroom. As I approached, I noticed the door was slightly ajar and heard strange sounds coming from inside. Worried that he might be unwell, I panicked and pushed the door open to check on him.
My aunt said to me, "You should sleep at my place tonight. There's no one home, and I'm very scared." Surprised, I asked, "What happened, Aunt?" She replied, "Your uncle has left. My eldest son is in the university dorm, and my youngest daughter is at her grandmother's. The baby and I are all alone at home. Lately, suspicious people have been roaming our streets at night, so I'm very worried." Hearing this, my mother immediately said, "Son, Arsalan, go with your aunt right now and stay with her for the night. Give her some courage." I agreed, grabbed my nightshirt and a book. My aunt took my hand and led me to her house. On the way, she kept telling me, "You've grown up, Arsalan. Now that you're with me, I feel a bit calmer." Upon arriving at her house, she locked the door and showed me into the big bedroom where her youngest son was already sleeping. My aunt sat me on the bed and told me to sleep next to her. Then we went to the kitchen and prepared dinner. After dinner, I opened my novel and began to read, while my aunt took care of other household chores. After a while, she returned and asked if I was finished. I answered in the affirmative, and she turned on the TV. It was 11 p.m. We were both watching TV. My aunt breastfed her son and rocked him. Then she told me it was time for bed. I lay down on the bed, and my aunt closed the door tightly and pulled the blanket over me from the inside. She said she was afraid of the air outside. I replied, "It's too hot, Aunt," but she wouldn't listen. After some time, a strange sound came from outside. My aunt immediately turned to me and hugged me. Her body was trembling slightly. I comforted her, saying, "It's all right, I'm here." My aunt embraced me and said, "You are my king. You won't leave me alone tonight." The second time I heard the noise outside, my aunt hugged me tighter. Her breathing quickened. I told her I would go out and check. At first, she categorically refused, but when I insisted, she stood up with me. She took a long stick and squeezed my hand tightly. We both opened the door, and there was a porcupine sitting in the yard. It saw us and ran away. We both laughed. My aunt felt a little more confident, but she still wanted to stay close to me. Returning to the room, we both lay down on the bed, sweating from the heat. I said, "Aunt, everything is fine now, let's sleep with the door open." But she refused, saying, "No, son, keep it closed all night." Then she stood up, brought out a thin sheet, and gave it to me, telling me to wrap myself in it and sleep, asking if it would help relieve the heat. When I wrapped myself in the sheet, my aunt said, "I'll take a bath too." A little later, when she returned, she was wearing a thin nightgown with water dripping from her wet hair. My aunt came over and lay on the bed, placing her son on one side and me on the other, while she lay in the middle. The light in the room was left on because of fear. My aunt's eyes were closed, but one of her hands rested on my arm. Suddenly, noises were heard from outside again. My aunt immediately turned and hugged me tightly. I embraced her and comforted her. My aunt softly said, "Arsalan, sit up, don't leave me tonight." The third time the noise was heard from outside, my aunt pulled me so close that our bodies touched. Her fair hair spilled over my face, and her breath touched my neck. I told her, "Aunt, don't worry, I'm with you." She opened her eyes, looked at me and said, "You are a very good boy. I couldn't have stayed alone tonight without you." There was a strange softness in her voice. Then she placed one leg over mine and pulled me even closer. In the room, there was only dim light, making her presence feel even more comforting. Shyly, I looked down, but she took my hand, placed it on her chest, and said, "Look at how fast my heart is beating." Her heart was indeed beating very fast. I stroked her hair to calm her down. But she took my hand, placed it on her chest, and said, "Look at how fast my heart is beating." Her heart was indeed beating very fast. I stroked her hair to calm her down. My aunt closed her eyes and hid her face against my neck. The sounds outside stopped, but she still refused to let go of me. Her body felt even warmer than before. I asked her if she was still scared. She replied, "The fear has subsided, but please don't let go of me." Then she pulled me so close that our bodies touched. Her gentle breath touched my neck, and her fingers slid along my waist. I hugged her. My aunt softly called my name and said, "Arsalan, you are so close to me." As the night deepened, my aunt pulled me toward her, embraced me, and said, "Be my king tonight." I looked at her with surprise, and a strange sparkle appeared in her eyes. She said, "Don't be afraid, son, I am your aunt. I will teach you everything." Her body felt incredibly warm, and she kept trying to get closer to me. I touched her hair, and she smiled. She held me against her chest and began to gently comfort me. Her fingers moved delicately over my body, and I embraced her in return. My aunt called my name and said, "Arsalan, you are so sweet." Complete silence reigned around us, filled only by the sound of our conversation. My aunt said that from tonight on, I was her trusted person. I pulled her close and hid my face on her knees as her body pressed completely against mine. She closed her eyes and held me even tighter. We both dissolved into each other's presence. The night dragged on slowly, her warm breath touching my neck and her fingers gently sliding along my body. I wrapped my arms around her waist and pulled her to me. Her voice was now full of comfort. She repeatedly called me by my name and referred to me as her king. Our closeness continued throughout the night. The street outside was eerily quiet, but inside our room, peace and courage reigned. My aunt taught me to find courage in solitude, and her tenderness touched me deeply. As dawn began to break, my aunt tried to wake me, but I had fallen asleep in her arms. She whispered in my ear, "Arsalan, it's morning, wake up," but her voice was still soft. She kissed me and said, "You gave me so much courage tonight. Now you are the closest person to me." A shy smile appeared on her face. She hugged me and said, "This night will be our secret." I agreed and nodded. My aunt brewed tea, and we drank it together after waking her son. As I was leaving for home, my aunt whispered in my ear, "Be sure to come next time when your uncle leaves." I smiled and said, "Yes." Returning home, I began to think about how her solitude revealed a new world to me. Now I missed her every night, wondering if she remembered me during those hours. It was an unforgettable night for both of us. Outside the window, the sun was setting. This is a fictional story. All characters are imaginary. Our sole purpose is to bring a smile to your face. Please do not misunderstand us. Some words may have double meanings, but the intention is pure.